Shay Knighten, welcome to Sports Spectrum. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm really good, and I'm excited to talk about this journey.
I love it. Well, we're excited to have you and really pumped to talk to you about a lot of different things. But let's start with coaching first. You coached kind of voluntarily last year with OU, your alma mater, of course, and then now you're coaching with San Diego. And you're still a player as well, as I mentioned in the intro. So let's start with the coaching thing. How's this coaching journey been going for you in terms of, you're also playing at the same time?
hmm It's it's going good. I'm fortunate enough to only play in the summer, um, so I have the entire season with the team, and then towards the end of their season is kind of the beginning of mine. So just trying to get in my own hitting, my own defense, my own conditioning, and just trying to keep myself in shape and prepared. That way, it's not like a whole new thing for me to try to redo by the time I get to my season. So it keeps me learning. It keeps me thinking, having to teach them and show them new things. So it keeps me kind of up to date with what I'm trying to do, and it shows me new things every day. So I'm really enjoying the coaching journey because I think it's going to be teaching me a lot more as I continue to play.
Obviously you can't play because it's college and you've
Yep.
fulfilled your obligation, but there's probably times when you're practicing like, I want to get in here. And so you're a player coach in some ways as a coach, I would imagine, right?
Oh yeah, I know. I've said to the team since I've got here in October, sometimes I'm like, dang, like you guys really made practice so much fun that I wanted to just run to my car and be like, hold on, let me grab my cleats real quick. Let me
Yeah.
grab my bat. So yeah, that player instinct is always going to be in me. So it's just having to wait my turn for the summer. But it's exciting.
No, that's cool. I'm glad you got this opportunity. Now you also played at OU, which we'll talk about your time
Mhm.
with the Sooners in a minute, but you played for one of the greats, Coach Patty Gasso. And we've had her on this show. We've had a lot of her players and even our friend Sarah Roberts, who introduced us, talks so highly of Coach Gasso and just the leader that she is. So what are some of the coaching traits that maybe she displayed that you want to carry out with you as a softball coach?
For me, one is mainly like the entire family aspect, and allowing the girls and my athletes to know that I am there for them. They can come to me for anything, and just that trust factor of yes, I'm your coach, but I'm also a person too. I have feelings too. I have a heart too. I've gone through what you're going through, especially since I am just very recently removed from the college world
Yeah.
as a player. So just having that family atmosphere, but two, also just trusting my faith, trusting myself, and not being afraid to put it on display, and truly show myself outside of Shay Knighten, the softball player, show the side of Shay Knighten, the coach, Shay Knighten, the person, just who I am on the inside and how I interact with my family and just kind of my morals and my values, um, not being afraid to show who I really am. But I think the last thing is she's a boss lady, and she owns every bit of herself. She owns what she knows, and she's a ride or die type of lady, and that's what I want to embody for my athletes, and just the entire coaching staff here. Just be a boss, own everything that you do. Don't be afraid to make those mistakes, because you learn from them at the end of the day. So, family, trust, and just being a boss.
Well, you are a boss, Shay Knighton, and it's a good person to learn from as far as Patty Gasso goes. So let me ask you about when you were playing under her, because you talked about Shay Knighton, the person, and obviously from the outside, and even the way I introduce you, right? I'll introduce you as San Diego assistant softball coach or former Oklahoma softball player. So there's sort of this title that is just natural, I think, when you do interviews, but
Mm-hmm.
there's an identity that's tied to you being a softball player, but you being the person, as you mentioned, or the woman of God and all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
talk us through what that was like in that progression, I guess, when you arrive as a young, probably 18-year-old freshman who, by the way, was a boss at 18. Your freshman year was phenomenal as a player, but Coach Patty Gasso and maybe her staff and just some of the teammates that you were around that might have been a little bit older that helped you along the way to find who Shay Knighton the person was, not just Shay Knighton the softball player.
Yeah. I think you said it. Something that Coach Gasso would always tell us was softball is what you do. It's never going to be who you are. So if you can find a way to show people who you are on the inside, how you interact with your teammates, your family, your coaches, just anybody outside of like your actual softball team, that really shows your character. And so coming in as a young 18-year-old, and not knowing anything about college. I have never played a college softball game before. I've been to them, but I don't know what it's really like. Yeah. And she really allowed me to just come into my own and not be afraid to express myself. I'm very loud. I'm an extreme extrovert. I love making people laugh. I love joking. I love to dance. I love music. And I love God. And so coming into college, that was the one thing that I was kind of really unsure of how am I going to continue my faith? Who is going to judge me for it? Who will I not be friends with for it? Kind of the insecurities and my faith was my main issue, I think, of, okay, where's my church? Who are my people? Because I knew my people inside of softball, but was I going to be able to find those people outside of softball? And I think Coach Gasso gave me that space to be myself in the softball world, that then gave me the strength to be myself outside and find my people outside of softball. And so I think just watching her and how she expressed her faith and allowed the entire team to just be ourselves. We would have Bible studies kind of before games or even sometimes during the week. And anyone was invited. It was never mandatory. If you feel comfortable enough and you want to, you're more than welcome to join. And I remember at first I never went. I was afraid. I wasn't sure if I was gonna be the only one to show up. So I just was like, I'd rather just not go. And then I started to learn like a lot of my teammates were going. And I was like, you know what, Shay, like take that leap of faith and just go. See what it's like. I wasn't sure. Well, let's practice this. I don't know the Bible front to back. Like I know bits and pieces. I could never be like, I know the entire thing. So I think that was like, I wasn't sure what the Bible study was about. I wasn't sure if there would be questions. I wasn't sure if it was going to be someone talking to us and kind of teaching us. I wasn't sure. So I think that's what made me a little more uncomfortable. But like I said, I just decided to just take the leap of faith and go. And it was sincerely life-changing. And it was all because of her. She gave me that opportunity to just come in when I needed to and when I felt comfortable. And I couldn't thank her enough because after I attended my first Bible study, it was the rest of the Bible studies I was at throughout the rest of my career. So
that's awesome. Softball, obviously a passion of yours to go along with your faith. When does that start? Are you going back to 4, 5, 6 years old in softball, or did that kind of come a little bit later as a kid?
It was definitely around 4 or 5. My dad played baseball. My dad was all about the sport. So he played baseball, football, basketball, and he played a little bit for the San Francisco Giants minor league way back when. So it was just kind of ingrained in all of his kids that we were going to do something in the sports world. So we all tried baseball and softball, basketball. My sister even played soccer. My brother played football. So for me and my sister, obviously, softball stuck. And we've been competing with each other ever since.
What about faith? As you mentioned, that time at Oklahoma was very important to your faith and growing in your faith. But where was the seeds planted? Where did that start for you?
It was at a very young age. I would probably say around the same time. Both sides of my family, my mom's side and my dad's side, are religious, but it mainly came from my dad's mom, my grandma. She was all about it. And so we would always go to church. She would take all of us. My dad would come. And then like the older we got, it was just harder to go to church. And so it kind of got lost because we always played all day on Sundays, all day Saturdays, and practiced during the week. And so it was just kind of tough. But I always had it in me. I always knew. But it was just once I got to college is when I really decided to grasp it on my own and really take a hold of my own faith. But those seeds were planted way before I could even really start to remember and recollect them. So
Shay Knighten is our guest here on Sports Spectrum. If you go to your Instagram page, Proverbs 3:5 is listed there. It's also one of
Yeah.
my favorite verses. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not
Mhm.
on your own understanding. So tell me about that verse. Why is that there? Because it's an intentional uh, stand, I guess, for your
Mhm.
faith when you put a Bible verse in your bio. It may seem trivial for some people, but to me,
Mhm.
whenever I see that, I'm like, listen, that person took the time to put that in their bio. So that means it must be pretty important to them. So why
Oh yeah.
Proverbs 3:5?
So for me, after my freshman year, I had knee surgery, and so that's when I was like, okay, like why? That's when you start to hear those why God questions, why me, why now, why this, why that,
Yeah.
and that was me after my freshman year. I was like, I just had a great season. We had just won a national championship. Like I'm ready to go. Like I don't want to have surgery, but it was something that I had to do. And so that verse was really what stuck to me because when I was after my surgery, I couldn't really walk. I was kind of in the bed and on crutches, so I couldn't really do a lot of things. So that gave me a lot more time to just read and dive into the Bible and dive into the Word and all on the Bible app and just trying to find ways to just keep myself from questioning and just kind of understanding that that's my path. This is where He wants me to go. And um, I remember I was going through the entire book of Proverbs, and that verse for some reason, like I read over it and it hit me, but I didn't really like focus on it. And then like a couple days later, I was like, no, like I need to go back because something about that like really stuck with me. And it was just that like after having surgery, I didn't understand. I was trying to figure it out on my own, trying to do things on my own, but that was a time where I really needed to lean in and learn about myself, learn about how I can grow as a person, learn how I can grow as a child of God, and learn how I can grow to help better my team for the next season, and not be selfish and think that I had surgery and I'm never going to do this, I'm never going to do that. My team's not going to do this, my team's not going to do that because I'm not there. It was more of my team is good. Like we were great.
Yeah.
And I was so young and just selfish in the idea of if I wasn't there, that we couldn't do anything. Like, how foolish do you have to be to think that that's true? And it was like God slapped me in the face and was like, listen, like, wake up. Like, I'm here. Lean on me, lean on my understanding, lean on my will and my purpose and not your own. And I think that verse really got me through my first surgery. And I even found like a cute little ring. I lost it. I'm so sad, but I found another one. My
Yeah.
original ring, it had that verse like in it, engraved in it. Um, and so that's just been my thing ever since. And I literally tell myself it all the time, like when I feel stressed or I'm unsure or there's a lot of things going on, especially in this new coaching role. I'm like, just take a step back. Like you don't understand. It's a new path. You were never meant to. You weren't going to be here on your own. You weren't going to do this on your own. Like God gave you the ability to play softball, and now He's giving you the ability to coach softball and impact lives. So why not just lean in and learn what He's trying to teach you?
Yeah, that's really well said. I'm wondering, you mentioned the knee surgery. I want to take you back to that time because you're
Mhm.
still young, you're still new in your faith, and obviously 16 was an incredible year for you guys, and 17 was too, which I want to talk about 2017 in a second. But talk me through or walk me through the community aspect and the people that were helping you through that time, that were surrounding you, because we can't do this on our own, and certainly this life on our own. And when we have setbacks, that's when we need people the most, even if it's just a small group of people. And I know the group at Oklahoma is a tight knit group. Like Coach Gasso, I've watched it from afar, and even talking to her, I understand that idea, like you said, of family, of really building relationships and not just building a softball team. So
Mhm.
take me through that time when you had that surgery. You kind of alluded to some of the feelings you were having, but the importance of the people surrounding you to help encourage you.
Outside of my family, like everyone that surrounded me in that time was phenomenal. Like they dealt with me when my mom was like shoving food down my throat. She's like, Shay, you need to eat. My dad's like, Shay, stop, like sit down, it's okay. Um, it like my family was great. And then on the flip side with like just the softball and just the entire Oklahoma community, mainly my teammates and my coaches, they're like, Shay, it's okay. Like, you're going to come back in your own time. We know you're going to work your butt off and like rehab and try to get back as soon as possible, but we don't need you to try to rush and possibly make something worse. And I know Coach Gasso, she would always check in. How are you doing? How are you feeling? You okay? Are you up and walking? My trainer, same thing, just making sure that everything was going okay. And my teammates, gosh, they were like, Shay, like, we got you. And that's all they said. And like, the phrase "we got you" is something that we really embodied as a team. And that we would say to Coach Gasso too, when we could feel that she was stressed or that she thought that maybe we weren't going to do something in a game, we were like, Coach Gasso, relax, we got you. And so when that then turned on to me after my surgery, I was like, you know what, like, they're right. Like, they've proven it before, we've proven it before. And I can't do this on my own. So why not just allow them to be there for me? And it was amazing. And every time I got on the field just to do a little bit of something when I was kind of cleared, just one ground ball, they were all in my back pocket, and I loved every second of it. And then when I was able to finally play, it was just so much fun to be back out there with them. But I could feel them with me. I could feel that they were invested in everything that I did, because they knew I was trying to do something for them. So they were also trying to do something for me. So it was just a really good community that I was a part of. And I don't think I could have gotten through my freshman year surgery, let alone my junior year surgery, without my teammates and without my coaches and family.
Shay Knighten is joining us here on Sports Spectrum, two-time national champion at Oklahoma. That 2017 year. So you have the surgery and then you come back and you won another national championship. But 17 is different because you guys played in one of the great women's college World Series games you'll ever watch. And it's funny, when I do my prep for the interviews that I do here, Shay, I don't usually spend a ton of time going back and watching a lot of videos or prep. I mean, I do my prep to try and get the background on everybody that I talk to.
Mm-hmm.
But I found myself on YouTube watching it was like a 12-minute clip. NCAA did a great job on just sharing the 17th inning. If people listening are like, 17 innings, the 17th inning, it's the longest game ever played in the Women's College World Series. It also happens to be a game where you hit a 3-run homer to give your team a victory. In essence, it was a go-ahead homer because you guys were the away team on the top of the 17th with 2 outs. It was the difference maker, and you beat Florida and then go on and win another national championship. So I need to ask you about 17 and that specific game, because College World Series, my daughter plays softball in high school. Those games are 6-7 innings, usually 8 innings, something like that if it goes a little extra. But 17 innings is like 2.5 games.
Yep.
That you guys played to get to where you got to go. When you think back to that game, what memories come back to you? What specifically do you think about? Probably the home run, I'm guessing, but it might be something else that comes to your mind when you think about that game, because it was such a historic game.
It was less about me. I do remember my home run, yes,
Of course.
but it was more of like just how much our team came together that game. That game, like, we were not going to be denied. There was no way that Florida was going to beat us. And we were willing to do whatever it took for us to do that. I do remember we had like no snacks in the dugout. We only had water and Gatorade. But we weren't even like worried about that. We were like just going. Like, we were just, our adrenaline was high. And it was just focused on the next pitch, get an out, next pitch, get an out, next pitch, base hit, next pitch. So it was just moving forward, kind of like in a train, just chug-a-lugging on, like keep pushing, keep going. But I think when, I'm pretty sure it was Fale who hit a home run to right field on an up and in pitch. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, Fale, like, you, like, we could win. And then obviously Florida came back, but it was the little moments, like in our dugout, of us laughing, Fale's home run, just how excited we were. It was the little things that we really bought into. And I remember, me and Nicole Mendez, that game, we have never done that before. Like, we have never done what we did before. Yeah. but before, I want to say it was like in between somebody's at bat, we like walked towards each other and we just kind of held hands and we said a really quick prayer of like, God, just relax us, like take all the weight off of our shoulders, like we're already in it. It was just really quick, but at that moment, like I felt so much more peace in the game that was so hectic and that was so crazy. But something, I don't know what it was, but we just found each other. We said a quick prayer in the middle of the dugout and we got back up on the fence and kept cheering.
Cool.
And I think that moment really stuck out to me, because the rest of the game, I felt like the entire team was freed. Like, yes, it was a moment between us, but it was something that I think the entire team needed without knowing that we needed it. And so after the game, I can't even like it. I'm still excited about the game, and it was like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun.
How often do you watch that? Like, and I'm not saying you're sitting there YouTubing yourself every day to go back and watch that clip, but how many times would you say you've gone back and watched that home run? For me, I'd probably watch it every day just to give myself some confidence and a boost of adrenaline before I get the day started. How often do you watch that?
I actually don't watch it often. And the
Okay.
few times that I have is if I've done an interview and it was like I was shown it again.
Right.
I watched it again, obviously in 2018, 19.
Sure.
Like when we had recruits come in, like they would watch our hype videos, and that was part of the hype video after that season. So I would watch it kind of then, but I never really like went back on my own and watched it, or it pops up on the NCAA page, or if somebody like randomly sees it, they'll tag me in it on Instagram or something, or on Twitter. That's when I'll see it again. But I've never actually like myself gone back and rewatched that game or rewatched that part. So it's cool to see like when I get tagged in it and I'm shown it. But I've never done it myself. Maybe
Well,
I should.
that's a long time to invest. First of all, I mean, it's like
Yeah.
watching, a long movie like the Avengers. You got to invest 3 hours if you're going to go watch a
Yep.
17 inning game. But I suggest people listening do what I did and just watch like the 17th inning, which was, I think, about 12 minutes and edited very well by the NCAA on YouTube. And that gave me everything I needed to know, including a wonderful shot of Coach Gasso when you had won that game and got that last out, where she just kind of puts her head down and kind of pounds on the dugout. And she's just like, I can't believe we just survived. Because in a lot of ways, when you play 17 innings, it's about who's going to survive in that moment.
Yep.
And you did it. So I want to ask you specifically about 2 moments from that 17th inning, just because I'm a sports fan and I'm curious when you're in that moment and you're the person, right? So the first I want to ask you is when you swing the bat, right, and you get that pitch and you hit the ball, what do you think in the second you hit that ball? Do you know it's gone? Like, is it right in that instant, or are you running around thinking, maybe it's not? Are you knowing right away?
Sometimes I know,
Yeah.
sometimes I don't. Like the 17 inning game, I knew. Like as soon as I hit it, I was like, oh, it's out. I knew.
Yeah.
But I could go back to my freshman year. We played Auburn, and I like their left fielder robbed it, but that was a ball that I wasn't sure. I was like, it could, but it couldn't. I wasn't sure. And I could jump to my senior year. The ball that I hit in the first game against UCLA to right center, I was running, watching it, and like kind of running fast. I was like, maybe, I don't know if it's gonna hit off the top of the fence. I don't know if she's gonna kind of drop it. I don't know. So I was running like harder towards second base, and then it went over. And then I was able to jog like after the fact. So some I do know, but majority of the time I have no idea.
That's amazing. I love that. And I think that's what makes a great athlete, is because you're not trying to hit home runs. You're just trying to make contact and hit it hard. And fortunately, in moments like that 17 inning game, it goes out. Now, the other moment I want to ask you is when you're rounding the bases and you're about to touch home plate. And if you watch the home run on YouTube, you can see it. Your teammates are all there. And that's kind of a commonality anyways, when you hit a home run in a softball game at that level. But this is the Women's College World Series in the 17th inning of, a very pivotal game. And there's your teammates just ready to jump on you and kind of pat on you. I mean, just to celebrate with you. Describe that moment for us.
I think like you said, they're always there after every home run, regardless of who hits it. But the World Series is a different beast, and it brings out like different vibes in you. It's like a whole different excitement level that's not even on a scale. It's its own separate thing.
Yeah.
And so in the World Series, I'm sure I could speak for anyone that hits a home run in the World Series, like the electricity that's in the air between your team alone, but then you add in the fans and your coaches and your family, it's something different. Like I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Like I wish I could do it just one more time.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing feeling, and to just see the excitement and the pure like joy and happiness that your teammates are showing you, and like you can feel yourself having. It's something that's describable, but also indescribable. It's something that like you have to feel and do on your own. But as a viewer, I'm sure you can still feel the same excitement.
Last couple questions here with Shay Knighten. I want to ask you about your last game, and it's a hard one, obviously, because you didn't win it, but you were right there, and you had a real great moment in that last game where you hit a home run in the last inning with 2 outs to tie the game. I think 2 strikes as well, if I'm not mistaken. But when I went back and watched it, and so it's a great moment, but the end result was not a win. It was a loss, and the season was over. And there's always that finality of a season being over, but we're talking about more than a season. This is the last game you'll ever play. And yet you have a great moment, but you also have a moment where your team doesn't win it all. And it was obviously a really great season for you, even though you didn't win. Take me through that, especially being a California girl and you're playing UCLA, and that moment of hitting a home run, which was a great moment it was pretty much over and you tie it and you give your team some more hope, but then the finality of it. Because I watched that game again too, which probably I shouldn't have because of the side of the losing side, right? It's hard. It's part of life, but there was some tears and there was a lot of emotion on your end too, I could tell. So walk us through that last game, which by the way, people, I know I'm rambling here for a minute, but that's the last Women's College World Series game that's been played, because there wasn't one last year because of the pandemic. So it feels like a long time ago. And yet when people look back, when was the last Women's College World Series game? It was that game.
Yep. Yeah. That game was tough, but it was honestly such a blessing of a game. I'm from California, and I know quite a few girls on the UCLA team. We grew up together, played together. Rachel Garcia, their pitcher, being one of them. Kinsley Washington being the one that had the walk-off. Aaliyah Jordan, just to name a few. We were all teammates. And so as bittersweet and as hard and heartbreaking that it was for me, it was so cool to share a moment like that with former teammates of mine who I consider some of my best friends. And we have that commonality now of we're all national champions.
Yeah.
So that is something that I hold on to, and that I'm super excited and super happy that I can always say, although like we didn't win it, some of my best friends won it. So that's cool. But yeah, a lot of emotions for me. I think I was just so just sad that my collegiate career was over.
Yeah.
And I think I felt like, I don't know if this sounds weird, but like I felt like I could have done more that season.
Sure.
In terms of like really just embracing the entire season. I think like, yes, I did embrace my teammates. I embraced every single moment. I seriously, genuinely enjoyed my entire senior year and all of my collegiate career. But I think I could have taken a little bit more of those step back moments, especially in the postseason run. We won a game and it's like, all right, on to the next. But it was more of, Shay, like this is your last postseason. Really take it all in, like enjoy the sights, enjoy the smells, enjoy the sounds. But to say that I didn't enjoy it is wrong. To say that I did enjoy it would be also an understatement. There was just so, like you said, there were so many emotions going on and just flowing. I was sad that was the end of my collegiate career. I was sad that I would never have those same teammates again. Thank goodness I played pro. I still play pro with Sid. Folly was a professional teammate of mine for a little bit. Reagan Rogers came on to Pride for a little bit too. So I still had them, but in that collegiate setting, that was it. And I think that is what really took more of a toll on me than the loss itself. I tell people this all the time. I sincerely and genuinely, wholeheartedly love Oklahoma to death.
Yeah.
Like Oklahoma softball has my heart forever. And so I think for me, it was just so emotional because I was like, this is my last, this is it. That's just what it is. But like I said, that game and just that entire season was a blessing, because I learned so much about myself, about the game of softball, and just who I want to be and how I want to give back to this game. And I don't think I could have learned the things that I did if it wasn't for that season, and for honestly losing a championship game. To me, you learn more when you lose, and that moment was a complete blessing in disguise of a huge learning curve for me as a player and now a coach. And that's an experience that I can pull back and draw back on to give to my players of, yeah, like this is what it feels like to lose, but here's what I learned in that moment. Here's what I was taught in that moment. So sad, but a huge blessing.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth, because that's what I was going to ask you about, the lessons that you learn in a loss versus a win. Obviously, you want to win every game, and you want to be a 4-time national champion in your 4 years, but it's in those low moments when it's not even really that low. I mean, you're the runner up, so that's
Yeah.
But I'm guessing because you won 2, maybe that helps you, be able to appreciate. And so even though you lose, you're like, okay, I had that experience of winning and I can appreciate. I mean, I'm just thinking about the Super Bowl, right? Recently, and Kansas City lost, obviously, and didn't play well against Tampa Bay, but they won the year before. So I think being able to handle a loss like that might have been a little bit easier because they won the year before versus having never won. And you guys, not your whole team, but a lot of you guys on that team had won a championship previously, and maybe it helps being able to kind of push forward in that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think having won before kind of gave me something to almost kind of teach the ones that hadn't won before and the freshmen that year of enjoy this moment because you will be back. And if you saw how they started their season yesterday, they're on a mission.
Yes.
And I want them to have that World Series feeling again, but that feeling of winning it all this time. And so, like I said, it's those learning and teaching moments that I got for myself, but now it's like I was also able to give them to my teammates at that time. So it's, like I said, it's just a learning lesson. I love winning. I hate losing, but I love losing also because you learn. So that's just my takeaway.
No, I love that. It makes complete sense. And I think the more people I talk to, especially at the high level of athletics, especially the pro athletes, they usually say it's in the losses that they come back stronger and that they get refined and that they get really, they learn the great lesson of what that feels like so they can push forward to be even better going forward. And I think that's life. Like that's in our faith and our walk with the Lord. It's those low moments that we can look back at and say, man, I didn't want to go through that, but I'm glad I did because I'm so much better of a person now and where I was then, from where I was then to where I am now. So it makes complete sense. I want to ask you, winding down here on my last question for you, 2020 was just quite the year. I mean, we all know what 2020 was like. You don't even have to rehash it. It taught us a ton of lessons, speaking of lessons in low points, and it revealed the best of us, I think, in some ways, and a lot of other ways, the worst of us. So my question for you as we wind down is a question I ask a lot here on the show. Tell us what God has taught you and showed you when you look back over the last 12 months, because at the time of this airing and the time we release this, it's just about a year that we started this pandemic world that turned into a lot of other things in 2020. So when you think back to the last 12 months, what's the great lesson the Lord showed you?
I think the main thing for me was there's light at the end of this tunnel. The light will always outshine the darkness. There's always going to be something. There's always something to look forward to. And for me, during the entire 2020, my light was the Lord, and really diving into his word and what he says, because I think that gave me a little bit more just calmness and peace, not with what was going on, but within my own self. So I could then try to help others and educate others and be a light for others in such a dark year. And another thing was just love thy neighbor, love one another, like love on somebody. Just give, like, I just simply put, just be kind. You never know what somebody else is going through. So why judge a book by its cover? You don't know that person. You don't know what they're going through. Just show them love, be kind, and be a light to somebody. We're so kind of, I hope we're in a realm of getting out of that darkness of what 2020 had, and it kind of carried over into 2021.
Yeah.
But it's tough. But I think for me, like, the main thing is just know that there's light coming. And the day he does, we're all going to be better off. So it's just keep fighting the good fight, like just lean hard on each other, and especially in him, because we can't do this alone. We have to look to something. We have to look to someone to help us out. And to me, and for me, that's the Lord and also my family. So love, be a light, and be kind.
Yeah, that's really well said. She is Shay Knighten with San Diego now as an assistant softball coach. She's a pro softball player as well with USSSA and the Pride in the National Pro Fastpitch League. And of course, her time in Oklahoma. This has been great, Shay. Thanks so much. And really great to get to know you. Thanks for being so willing to come on the show and share your heart and share your story. Hopefully we'll do it again sometime. All the best to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.